Hey guys, so in this video, I'm going to show you how we set up our automated employee onboarding system inside of Airtable using these three simple tables, which is employees, resources, and onboarding form responses. So this is where all the staff profile lives, which is employee, which we have the name, the role, status, as well as phone numbers. And we have resources, which stores our pre-onboarding info. For in this case, we're storing the office info as well as the PIC to reach out to on their first days. We also have the onboarding form responses, which collects whatever the new hire submits through their onboarding form. So everything else in this onboarding process actually builds on top of these three tables, right? So you can see there are many other tables here, but these are for the other automations that we've done previously. So do check out our other videos on attendance, hiring, and also Buku demo, right, which is an accounting system demo. So the way our automation works is when we do get a new hire, be it through LinkedIn, JobStreet, etc., we just have to include their name, right, their name here, as well as their phone number, right, even if they email if you need to, but the name is actually all we need. So for example, I'll just put a name, James, right. He is, right, we don't even need the role actually. We don't even need the role, the status, the number, right. So I'll just leave it as this. So I can just leave this empty because later on it will be automatically populated as we go on the automation, right. So this is just, let me just put my own email. Right. So these other fields are just basically fields that pull on from the onboarding form responses, right? So all of this will be collected later on. So before they start, right, you can always just send them over an onboarding form, just a simple form like this, right? You can just send over the link with a simple welcoming, text, just asking them to fill up this onboarding form before they start, officially start in your company, right? So this is just like I said, just a dummy data, right? So you can have like a short welcome message as well as to welcome, to make the new hire feel more welcome, right? So you can always attach the employee name. Like just now, we've created the record for James, right, which is here, James. So you can, when they are filling up the form, they can select their own name, and this will only show the ones that are not active, right? So they're only showing all of this four. I mean the empty ones actually. So that's why it's only showing Melissa as well as James only, right? They are showing the ones that are not empty. So after they fill up this form, they will automatically update into onboarding started. So as James, right, we'll be filling up this form. Admin. So he will also know which office he is in, depending on how the interview goes. If he says he wants to go to the Puchong branch, then he will obviously select Puchong branch, because this will also be tied to who he's going to be reaching out to, right, depending on which branch he goes to. We'll also automatically send him the address as well as the parking tips, as well as a PIC that he'll be reaching out to on the day itself, right? So as he proceeds to just follow up by filling up all these emails. So after I filled up all of this information, right, I can just quickly press send, right? So we take in their emergency contacts, address, MBTI, as well as some of the short introduction text, right? This is just an address that I've put in as the dummy data, right? So we can move on to this interface where we can see that James has already been populated, right, from the onboarding form response. So in just one glance from this interface, we're able to see all of this information, right? Here, his role, his ID, his MBTI, his address, his t-shirt, as well, etc., right? So obviously you can clean this up a little bit, like by making, let's say, some of the fonts bigger, etc. So you'll also be receiving email, right? This is an email that will be automatically sent to James, which is set to send 14 days before his official start date, right? With what he needs to know on his first day, as well as the address, working hours, and parking tips, as well as who he should be looking for, which is his buddy, right? You can also always bold this text with a markdown formatting. So 2 asterisks, you're able to bold all this text depending on what you need. With 2 asterisks, you're able to bold, let's say, the word Bikram, right? You're able to bold it in the automation, which I'll show later. We also create a automation to send to, let's say, the team, right? All of this is to me, right, for the time being, but you can set it to send to the PSC in charge, for example, his manager, right? New guy incoming, comes in at 9 a.m. and further details. For example, you can also send this to admin team to ask them to ensure that these are ready. The payroll team for his banking details, right? As well as the new hire team to start preparing his logins, his laptops, etc. before his first day, which is on the 19th, right? Which is 2 weeks before, right? Which is within 2 weeks before the time frame, because today is 11 and his first day is 19, so this will all be fired 2 weeks before. So obviously the first step to creating all of this form, right, would be to have all of this first, these 3 tables. And the fields that you should have would be, I would say it's just the general individual data forms that you need for each company, their personal details, their phone, their email, and obviously in this case, you will need to have their bank details, right, if you need for their payments, right, the bank details, tax ID if they do have tax already. And also, of course, you want to get in their introduction, their MBTI, their photo, as well as their start date, right? Yeah. Their role also, of course. Right. So the rest will be all lookups, information lookups from the pre-onboarding resource, where you'll be inputting information that is static. It won't change and it won't be populated, right? You'll only be supplying information of this information to the onboarding forms, right? Depending on what they select here, right? Depending on which office they select. So next we head over to automations and we see how this is all set up, right? Let me just close this off. Close all this, right? So we have 2 different automations in this whole workflow, where firstly, when a record is created inside of the onboarding form responses, right? So whenever they fill up the form, it will create a record. And we'll then follow up by updating the record work status, right? We'll update the work status. So, for example, just now for James, if we head back to the data pages, right? We can see that James' work status has now been changed to onboarding started, right? So the way we link this is by choosing a table for it to connect to, right? Let me just create this, update record. So we always select the table where the changes will be updated, right? So the table will be employees onboarding, right? So record ID, this is to select the ID of the record to update. So for example, in this page, right, which record should be updated, right? And what should it be referring to, right? And in this case, because the form is a separate table, right? The form is from a separate table, but the form pulls information from this table. So for example, we are able to choose the employee name, right, which is populated from this table. So under record ID, so the names will always be the same, right? The names that you fill up from the form will always be the same as the name in this employee table. So when we fill up this record ID, we can always just select when a record is created based on the employee name, right, the value of it, right? In this case, it's this is a test data, so it's Harini. But if you do choose a record as Harini, right? So next we choose a field, right? Choose a field to update, right? In this case, we want to update the work status into onboarding started, right? So just like that, we're able to set up this automation, which automatically updates the record inside of this table, right? Okay, let me just delete this real quick. Right. So next we send an internal email to the IT team, right? So it will send to the IT team's email, but in this case, I'll just put my own email because this is a demo account. So we will then need to fill up the subject, right? So we can see back here, it'll be new hire setup and the person's name, right? New hire setup, person's name. So new hire setup, person's name, same as just now, right? The name, the person's name, value, right? Person's name, value. Then we can create just a simple text, right? So please prepare the following for our new hire, their name, as well the same thing, which is we are pulling from the form response, right? From employee form response, and the position, which is based on what they filled here, right? The position, right? Their start date, as well as the tools that they need. You can also actually further automate all the tools that they need by having an extra field, but you need to create a new field inside the form to ask, what are the extra tools that they need. But it will depend on whether or not how flexible your company is to provide all of these extra tools to your employee, right? So just a simple text like these, you can see here, right? So you can see here, same thing, right? Please prepare the following: the person's name, the person's position, start date, as well as the required tools. Complete before the start date. So similar email to finance as well, but in this case we'll be including the bank details, right? So go up to here, you can see the bank details, right? Name, as well as the bank account number. Please let me know if you need any information for the payroll setup, so depending on each person, right? So this is also for the different, so now this is for the admin team, right? So it's office preparation for this person, right? So to prepare for the workspace as well as the access card and a welcome pack if applicable, right? Depending on each company's SOP. So this is the first automation where it just emails to the internal internal departments to prepare for this person's arrival. Next, we have this automation to send 14 days before the start date, right? So when a form is submitted, which is this onboarding form response, right? This form is submitted if the start date is within the next 14 days, right? So inside this, we have a place where we have a field where we ask them to fill their start date, right? In the field, ask them to fill the start date. Okay? So within the next 14 days, if they are starting within the next 14 days, they'll be sent an email to sort of guide them on their first day, right? So an email which is something like this, right? So excited to have you on the first day, right? Before you join us, quick guide, right? Access and key cards, etc. House rules, as well as the address and working hours and parking, right? So this one will be connecting separately. So here is a pretty template kind of message, and here this is what I meant by the markdowns, right? The markdown formattings. If you put 2 asterisks, it will be a bold. If you put 1, it will be an italics, right? So here, right? So here will be slightly different from before because we'll be getting data from the resource, right? Under resource. So depending on what they choose, which branch they choose to go with, they'll be populated with a different office details, right? So different PSC, for example, Natasha or Vikram, right? So in this case, we'll be choosing to add this new value. You can always just press this plus button, or you can have this bracket, right? This bracket here to have this field open, right? So based on this form data, right? So we need to choose the base structure, table and field IDs. Then we need to scroll down to resource, right? Which is the table that we're pulling data from. So after it's open this, right? Choose this office, right? Straight away from when the form is submitted, because we'll be having a lookup data from here, right? We'll be looking up data. We'll be linking this table to the resource table, and we'll have a lookup fields where we look up particular fields from this table. So in this case, we're looking up the address, right? right? The address, the working hours, as well as the tips, right? Transport tips and the PSC as well. So here we choose office, right? And we choose the value of the office. Just like that. So we get the office address, the value, and similarly the working hours, value, packing transport value, and also the PIC, which is Mr. Vikram here, right? We'll be choosing the value, this value, particular value. And you can also see which response has been filled depending on the ID, right? Let's see, it's over here. So I'll just delete this one up here. Okay. So the email that you'll be getting is something like this, right? The address, working hours, as well as the parking tips, transport tips, and also the buddy. Right. Next, you can also have an email sent to your internal manager, right? You can also automate this part, right, based on their marketing team or etc. by having another resource table for departments only. But in this case, it's just a demo, so I put it my own email. So just have a quick subject, new guy coming in, name, right? And some extra details on the guys that's coming in on 9 a.m. on this day, right? So just a simple email, something like that. Right? And lastly, you have this interface tab, which is like a clean dashboard that shows everything about the employee all in one place, right? So instead of clicking through multiple tables or multiple tabs or scrolling through this whole table to understand more about this employee, you have this interface which is clean and easy to read through, where you can get a quick snapshot of the person's details, like the employee ID, their name, their role, their birthday, their address, right, which is pulled in from the resource info, which is pulled in from the forms, right? So which makes life a lot easier for your HR or your admin staff, right? When they have to refer to this person's details when preparing for their IT login, etc. So this helps the HR team because the IT, admin, and finance team doesn't have to always message HR. They can just refer to this interface and get the information that they need to prepare, like the access as well as their key cards, etc. And that's pretty much it, right? It's all about just linking these tables together through a form and then linking the data that we got into a interface, right? And just like that, you're able to automate the onboarding process to make it a lot more cleaner and repeatable, right? So that your HR team can focus on more valuable tasks such as like conflict handling, culture shaping, talent evaluation, right? The things that go through before you actually hire, or even how you motivate the team to work harder, employee retention, these sort of things, instead of focusing on the time for copy pasting all this information when sending to these relevant departments, right? So that's about it for our onboarding process. So if you'd like to see more automations, be it on Airtable, N8N, or anything really, right, do comment down below and just let us know, right? Thank you for watching and happy automating.